started off studying engineering at university, mechanical engineering, and then I joined the Royal Navy, where I trained as a marine engineer and then as a nuclear engineer. I'm privileged to be chief engineer of 2 of the nuclear submarines and also the defence regulator for the construction of the first astute submarine. I then left the Navy and went to work as a consultant for a few years, working at Atkins Nuclear. I then got the opportunity to join Urenco UK as the chief engineer on site, and while I was there I was promoted and became the safety director and chief nuclear officer. Urenco is a nuclear chemical factory. After a few years doing what was a fantastic job, I got the opportunity to join Horizon Nuclear Power, and joined there first as engineering director, and then I was technical director for the Wilfer Newydd new build project, which unfortunately was unable to secure government funding, but it was an absolutely fabulous project to be part of. After that came to an end after 5 years with them, I joined Network Rail, and I've been here now for coming up 2 years, just over 20 months, as the engineering services director, where I lead the internal design business and act as safety director for route services, which is one of Network Rail's internal business units. The challenge in Network Rail is it's another high hazard industry, so there's a lot of synergies. I've worked across shipbuilding, defence and civil nuclear, and coming to the railway has a lot of the similar issues. In some ways though, I find it really high tech when you look at some of the work we do in Network Rail, and really old fashioned in others. So I think there's huge opportunity for us to engineer out some of the hazards our people face, and through the work that the NRDD team do, I'm sure we can really make the railways safer for everybody. So I think it's a great opportunity, and it's a fantastic organisation to be part of. Diversity inclusion for me is treating everybody how I'd expect to be treated. It's actually should be about, regardless of your race, colour or creed, you should expect to be treated the same. And I think is creating a caring environment and a place where you want to be and you'd hope others would want to be part of. So I think that's a really important part of what we're meant to do as leaders. And I'm constantly looking to how we're presenting ourselves, what language we're using, as to whether we're able to create a place where people really believe us and feel valued. So I think it's really important that we do that. I guess the challenge we have is not being aware of, and so expanding our knowledge of the challenges that different groups face enable us to just perhaps phrase things slightly different, or ask questions slightly differently, so that people can give the full benefit of their knowledge and experience to us. Everywhere you go, a job is about how do you deliver your best, and how do you make people or help people who work for you deliver their best. I think you can spend a lot of time trying to be cleverer than people, or to trick people into working, or be driven or drive, but actually if you think about leading people as being about how do you maximize the benefit for everybody who works for you, how do you get them working at their very best, because the more successful they are, the more successful you will be. And that's something I always try and do, is to think about how do I minimize people's weaknesses, how do I help them develop, and by doing that, you get the most productive, effective teams, and they're the most fun to be part of. So I guess that's at the heart of it. For me, it's all about how do we lead in a way that makes it a great place to work and a great place to be. I would like to think so. I certainly look at the women and scientists I've had work for me over the years, and I've always just looked at the results, and I've never I've never yet seen a paper that you can tell who wrote it by the quality of the engineering. It's the engineering speaks for itself. So I would really be looking to make sure that we celebrate the successes of people. A lot of people will anecdotally say, oh, we shouldn't need a women's group, or we shouldn't need women only awards and all this things. No, we shouldn't, but we do. When only 8% of women are taking science, we actively need to be encouraging them. We're missing at least 42% of the potential best scientists who simply don't take the subject. So we should be proactively celebrating their successes and demonstrating them to encourage more people to do it. We need the strong role models. Who's the next Hella Sharman? Who's the next person to be people talk about the first Briton in space? It wasn't Tim Peake, it was Helen Sharman. She did it in 1991 when I was, at Naval College. That's what we should be celebrating, and looking for people of who can become the role models of the future. I worry there's a level of self-censorship. I think people think they're not going to get it, so they don't apply. And I think that's one area that we need to be really encouraging to make people apply. Another, as I said earlier, is that we need to make sure we've created the opportunities for them to actually get the breadth of experience that you need and to be able to hold a senior role. I think to become one of our top engineers, you need to have had an operational role, a maintenance role, a design role, so that you understand the breadth of what we do as engineers. It's very difficult to stay in one field and become Andrew Haynes. You'll need to have worked in a range of different roles, and to build up the breadth of experience you'd need to hold that kind of role. So I think that's really important to us, and we do need to make sure we're not just recruiting on our own image. I think unconsciously it's really easy to want people like us, as opposed to looking at the benefits you get from having true cognitive diversity in a team. I think it's demonstrated to a lot of businesses that people can work remotely really well. And I think that can only help people in those difficult years when your children are young and returning to work seems impossible. Actually finding the ability to do it from home perhaps will let us work differently in the future. But at the same time, I can't imagine how hard it's been for some people with young children at home whilst trying to work full time without the opportunity to go to the office. So I'm not in that. My children are a bit bigger, so I don't really know what it's like being at home with small children, but it's been tough enough with mine. So what I'd like to think, what I'd like us to do is to look at how do we use agile working and flexible working in the future to maximize opportunities for all of our employees. One of the things that I've been looking at, and it's not just for science and for women, it's also for all our minority groups, is looking at how we're doing shortlisting. So making sure that we've got a diverse shortlist, making sure that our interview panels are diverse, but also looking at how we're writing job applications, how we're using secondments. Secondments are often used to put people into jobs temporarily to gain experience. If we don't make those really open, then they can become jobs for the boys. And it means that when you then come to the interview, the person with the experience is the one you gave the secondment to. And you're almost predicting or creating the stronger candidate by your actions now. So I think we need to proactively be looking to how do we create opportunities for our minority staff members and for the women in our teams, so that they actually get the opportunity to develop and expand their skills, so that when they are interviewed, they're not just making up the numbers by being an interview candidate, but they're actually the strongest candidates, so that we can then promote them and give them the roles. The first challenge we have is getting women into science and engineering, and it's getting better. But when I was an undergraduate, there were three women on my course out of 100, and by the time we graduated, one had chosen to go off and become an accountant. So that was only down to 2%. And within 5 years, 10 years, both of the women from my course had children and hadn't returned to the workforce, so they were lost from the industry. So you get people of my age, my early 50s, there aren't very many women engineers, and so it's really difficult to see the role models. But some of them that are there's some fantastic people out there. When I left the Navy, the first person I worked for was a lady called Anne Lawrence, who's now I think she's the head of compliance at Hinkley Point, and she was a fantastic boss and really helped me make the transition from leaving the military. So I think long term we've got to get more girls to take science at university and at school, and we've got to get them before they're in year 9. If we haven't convinced them they want to do science early enough, so years 6, 7 and 8, then they'll only do double science, and by that point it's too late we're losing people too soon. We're also getting women who are studying science tend to be drawn into the medical sciences and biological sciences, and we're not drawing them into engineering. I think it's still seen as too much of a preserve of men, and it doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be. There's some great people out there showing that it doesn't have to be. One of the non-executive directors of the Office of Nuclear Regulation is Dr. Janet Wilson, who's a real trailblazer nuclear engineer who's shown it can be done. So I'm really keen we do that. But unconscious bias does exist, and I think we can make a difference firstly by being aware that it's there, and then consciously looking to make sure that it doesn't influence us. If you know something's there, then you can act upon it. So I think the more we can do to create our awareness of it, and then also look to what are the barriers, what stops women becoming senior is a lot of them choose not to come back after having families or career breaks, or we just don't make it easy enough for them to balance their lives, and I don't think that's right, and I think we should be doing more to think about how people work flexibly, how we can work agile, and I think the last year and a half of working remotely has shown us that we really can do that. We can be more agile, so I think we should do something about that. I think also in how we compile shortlists, how we write our adverts, how we actually design our jobs can be done in such a way that it allows the flexibility for people to choose how they want to work, and so that we get the best out of them. We're half of the people are women, and yet only 14% are currently in network rail as engineers, and only 8% nationally, and we're missing out on a huge talent pool. So we should really be doing more to make it easier for women to become engineers and to want to remain as engineers. Be yourself, bring your whole self to work. If you feel that you need to behave differently, then you'll never behave at your best, you'll never deliver at your best. So bring your whole self to work, allow yourself to be vulnerable, and to take help from those around you, and just bring all your knowledge, skills and excellence to bear in everything you do, and that's what makes people successful.